What's up, everybody? Paul Hickey here with NoOffSeason.com, and welcome to episode 1 of the Soccer Card Strategy Show, part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Content Network. No one is bringing the energy more than my guy, the catalytic Kendall McKee, on episode 1 of the Soccer Card Strategy Show, brought to you by NoOffSeason.com. Kendall, take it away, my man.
Hello, and welcome to the Sports Card Strategy Show put on by NoOffSeason.com. We are your content providers in terms of an investment report when looking at your sports card portfolio. This is the soccer card section of what we do here at No Off Season. And yes, this is a familiar voice, and this is Kendall McKee. I do the baseball card strategy show as well as the flagship sports card strategy show with Paul Hickey. And you're going to be listening to me as on this soccer show. We are going to invite several different voices into our sports cards or our soccer card strategy show over time, because I know just as well as anyone that soccer is a huge international sport, and there are voices from all over the planet that need to be heard in terms of what their sports card preference is in terms of their soccer demographic that they watch. So as I am and will admit to being a U.S. men's national team homer, I also want to give perspective out there that potentially is where some Paul connections are coming into play here, where he lives in Valencia. We have international connections. We have a guy in our group, for instance, that has a Brazilian connection. And we want to be able to offer those different perspectives in terms of a comprehensive investment report when it comes to soccer cards. Soccer cards might be the biggest play in the hobby over the next 3 to 5 years. Yes, that is saying a lot, considering that the hobby could grow exponentially in the next couple of years, and soccer could be one of, if not the most catalytic part of that massive growth period in the foreseeable future. Without going any further, we also want to point out that this show is brought to you by Sports Card Investor. Their Market Movers app is something that we use commonly at NoOffSeason.com to show how our investment reports are doing in terms of which players and which cards are at an investable period, and also how we can foresee and make smart plays going forward when cards are maybe undervalued or overvalued, whether they're a buy, a hold, a sell, or a watch list. This is how we are doing that. And so if you go to Market Movers and you're using our app code of No Off Season, we want to get a little bit of a feedback there, and it helps us do what we do. So without further ado, I want to just dive straight into Sports Card Strategy Show. A little bit of an intro has already been made. As I've said, that my name is Kendall McKee. I'm on several different podcasts here at the NoOffSeason.com playlist of podcasts. We have several different shows that we are now integrating into our flagship sports card strategy show. We have all different sports, including F1, UFC, golf, hockey, wrestling, and celebrity cards, as well as the flagship main 4 sports. And we want to bring the most comprehensive data in terms of how all of those things play into our sports card investment report rankings. So if you are interested in how not only one sport interacts, I will give our top 10 in terms of our soccer list and our investment report here in this episode. But if you're interested in figuring out how all of those things integrate, feel free to go to nooffseason.com and see our investment report there. We give plays, we give cards that you potentially could buy, we give reasons why they're on the report. And as we continue to update those, they will be a flagship part of our product going forward. In our sports card endeavors, Paul and I have really come to a conclusion that soccer is something that we can't spend. How do I want to say this? We cannot spend enough time putting more emphasis on soccer. This is a sport that is becoming wildly popular around the world and has been wildly popular around the world. And we've just happened to live in a country that's kind of behind the 8 ball in that area. But the U.S. men's national team has put us into a place where I would say actually our U.S. women's national team has put us into a place where the sport has become instrumental in terms of a worldwide collecting and investing portfolio. You need soccer players in your investment portfolio if you are going to have the most comprehensive view. And so I hope that this show sheds a little light on somebody who potentially doesn't have or doesn't know that much about soccer and is able to just bite into this little snippets of this show for the next 20 or 30 minutes and be able to really change their trajectory of their portfolio. Soccer is massively undervalued right now across the states, for instance, but also across the world for several different reasons. I'm going to give you a few of those right here. The reason why I'm going to say that it is an undervalued asset class is because there are almost infinite amount of people that could be interested in a specific card. Your market is potentially wildly, or it is wildly more popular in terms of a worldwide perspective, and so you've got more potential buyers when you're looking at it in terms of liquidity, but also in the pop count, it is a lower pop count because some of these cards have not been overproduced because soccer is just now getting to a place of wide production in terms of multiple different launches happening at the same time. You've got mega cracks and you've got some Panini stuff. You've got Topps Chrome and Champions League cards. But I would say the pop count is still low. It is getting higher, but previously and until now, our pop counts have been low. And what that is crucial for is there's more dollars to put per card out there. And so when you're looking at an investment, from an investment's perspective, you want the most amount of liquidity per card available. And although there are other sports that have a higher dollar per card average, soccer is definitely higher than definitely a good investment class. There's also multiple languages, multiple viewers, multiple countries, multiple talent levels, and multiple different investment strategies that you can take with soccer. And then the biggest reason of all, and this is something that I really want to tune into, here is why soccer is a must buy right now. I always say, no matter what sport you're in, you want to be buying in the off season and selling in season. Now, what's particularly important about soccer is the worldwide map of different season maps. The most of the countries operate on a season of August to September to May to June. And then you have the summer months that are used for the international clubs. So a player, for those of you that aren't informed, a player can play for their club and their country simultaneously. So a player like Ronaldo, for instance, can play for Manchester United and have a season where he will play for Manchester United. And then he can also take leaves of absence and go play for his home country of Portugal. And so he will log minutes and caps and jerseys in both of those places simultaneously. So you can receive cards from a national team perspective with Ronaldo in a Portugal jersey, but you can also have Ronaldo in his club jersey as well. So it gives you more asset classes to work with, and both of those are valued around the same place, depending on what time of year. And I'll explain that here coming forward. But why this is the biggest buying season I've ever seen is because of one of a couple of things. We have never had a Winter World Cup before. Well, as far as I can remember, there might have been one before my time. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm probably not as I'm saying that without having that research already developed, but I will say it is not normal. Typically, the World Cup is in the summer months, and then this year, because it is in Qatar, it is in the winter months. This is building up to be one of the biggest potential offloads in terms of how your money is going to be diversified in the sport. This is going to be one of the biggest times where you're going to see an asset class moving or a transfer of shifting of dollars in an asset class, because this not only is a summer season where it's technically the off season to where I would say is a buying card window, but you've also got in the next 3 to 4 months an opportunity to get these players before they go to the World Cup stage. So you're going to have a new start of a new season and the World Cup happening at the same time. Therefore, the next 3 to 4 months are absolutely critical for your portfolio when you are buying. So that's why I am labeling this as the biggest off season to buy, maybe in national team or maybe in national card history. The market has never been at a more of a buy season from an off season and World Cup hype perspective, but also in where cards are now about to be mass adopted in all levels of trading. Therefore, if we can get in now, we will see big wins for our portfolio. What we want to do here is at nooffseason.com is combine your portfolio with a rounded percentage in GOATs, what we're calling GOATs, stars, and flyers. The reason why we say that is you want to have in any asset class, you want to have a rounded perspective where you're not heavily invested in one area. Therefore, if one area is potentially softened, you can really rely on a diversified portfolio. So in this aspect, the GOATs that you want to, that I'm recommending you invest in this period of time are Maradona. There's a reason why. Ronaldo and Messi. Ronaldo and Messi, for me, are GOATs in a particular reason because they're still active, but they're often thought of as guys that are in that top echelon of talent. You're seeing their cards readily available, and they have some of the low pop counts in terms of some of their first cards. Now, I also want to just throw this little tidbit in here. They both had cards in the 2014 World Cup series that Topps did. That is a historically low pop count. And so if I'm investing in any, and shout out to Krim from Texas Roadshow, he is the one who got me onto this. And I wanted to point out that the 2014 World Cup cards are a low pop count investment portfolio piece that could potentially have these GOATs in it. Now, outside of Maradona, obviously, he's one of the greats from Argentina, but he is a guy that the hobby just loves to lean on. So I'm going to say Ronaldo, Messi, and Maradona are the three guys that I would make sure that you have in your portfolio. And two of those guys are in our soccer card rankings. The reason why Maradona is not in our sports card rankings right now is we like to put active players on the list. So it's very rare that you see not only one, but two active players that are both considered GOATs in their sport. And that's how we would consider Ronaldo and Messi. I'm going to put them down as guys you definitely want in your portfolio. And you're definitely going to, I have some of both actually already. I have a Panini's contender ticket of Ronaldo, and I also have just a base Messi, which I wish I had more of him, but he's quite expensive, as you can tell. In our next level, we have stars, and our stars are filling our sports card rankings. And I'm going to give this at a comprehensive level in a minute, but our number one ranking right now is Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe out of Paris Saint-Germain or Paris Saint-Germain or PSG, as most people would call it. And the French national team is a guy that has been a star and has been on the national team level, has been at the best of his game at PSG. And this guy is wildly popular. So this guy is a guy that you definitely want to make sure that you have in your portfolio and could be considered a GOAT in not very many years because of how young he was able to get onto the field and how he will be able to play at the highest level for many years to come. I don't think we're at just the cusp of what Mbappe's career is going to look like, and we will see Mbappe for many years to come. It reminds me of when we saw Santos sell Neymar right at the end of his Santos career in Brazil. I feel like that's at the point where we're at with Mbappe, which is awesome because we're at a point where we're almost just getting started with Mbappe, and he's definitely already done some incredible things, winning a World Cup already. We've seen him win Euros. We've seen him win at the highest level in terms of what he's doing in the French league. And Mbappe is a guy who already has a catalytic celebration. He's already a guy that's already branded well. And Mbappe is still, I think he is 24, maybe. Let me make sure real quick. Yeah, he's 23. So he's a guy that still could play for maybe. Now this is stretching it, but maybe he could play for 20 more years. When you look at a career like Raul, when he was able to play way into his 40 seasons, I think we will be able to see a guy like Mbappe, if he wants to, play for another 20 years. That is GOAT status in the making. Another star in our list here is you definitely want to look at Erling Holland down there at the number 4 spot. This guy is a striker that has, when I look at him, I see the same kind of energy that Ibrahimovic had young in his career. He's big, he's strong, he's from one of those the Nordic areas, so which also plays into the Ibrahimovic feel. But I think what sets him apart from that is that he is personable. Now, Ibra was Ibra, and we're never going to doubt that. But what Haaland has over him is he is a fun guy to support. Ibra was fun to support because he was kind of the villain in every scenario. Haaland will definitely be a different player entirely, but I could see him being the kind of guy on the field that you just are expecting him to score. You're expecting him to change ball games. And this summer, when he moves from Dortmund, likely to the likes of the Premier League, I've seen reports that Man City is going to bring him in, and that would be a good landing spot for him. His brand is going to exponentially grow if that happens. But we will see Haaland be a star that you need to invest in. Unfortunately, Norway is not going to be in the World Cup this year, as he is pretty much the only guy in Norway. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to look at where Norway placed in their Euro, in their group. So they were in a UEFA Group G, and Norway finished 3rd behind Turkey and Netherlands. So in this particular group, the Netherlands automatically qualified for the World Cup with 23 points, and then Turkey advanced to the playoffs with 21 points because this is unlike other groups, the top 2 ended up having a chance for qualification to the World Cup, but Norway finished 3rd. So we're going to have to wait at least another 4 years to see Haaland in a World Cup jersey, but I don't think that will affect his price as much. We won't necessarily see the boom from the World Cup from him, but I think there's going to be enough moves this offseason and enough hype for him going into the next season that you're going to see his card values really take off as well. I, for instance, am excited that he's with Norway. That's another country where he's going to be the guy when it comes to that. And I think we do see Norway hit a World Cup qualifier next year, but we've seen guys like that are huge for their country and kind of lift their country into a national level of competitiveness. And I think of about Chile, for instance, when we saw that Chile they're in the South American group that is really, really thick with competition. And when we saw Alexis Sanchez really rise up into who he became, of course, he did have another cast of group there when we think about Vidal and some other guys that were on that team. But Chile rose to the level of competition with their stars rising. And I think we could see that with Norway, with Andres Haaland as well. When we look back at our investment reports, that I will give you the comprehensive list in a second. Out of the top 5, I've named 3 of the players already. We have Kylian Mbappe, we have Erling Haaland, and at 5 we have Cristiano Ronaldo. But I also want to point out here that there's young guys in this sport all over. Now, we have mentioned 2 young guys in terms of Haaland and Mbappe, but the funny thing about soccer in general is they're almost considered the old guard already. Sometimes sometimes we need to invest in guys that are potentially not even able to legally vote in some countries. This is insane. We have guys that are making cards, multi-million dollars market caps of cards, and they're not even 18 years old yet. When we see that, we look at how, for instance, the U.S. men's national team that I'll talk about in a second is filled with guys under the age of 20. Like, these guys are wildly popular. They're wildly in market caps. Their evaluation in terms of their club level is insane, and that drives their card prices up. So when I talk about that, I talk about a guy like Pedri. When we talk about Pedri, we see him as a guy that is massively popular, so much potential. He's number 3 on our list in our investment portfolio, and he's 19 years old and plays for one of the biggest clubs in the world. We see another guy that's 19 years old on our list as well, but down at the like the 12 to 15 range. When we talk about those U.S. men's national team players, Gio Reyna is a guy that I'm super, super high on, and we actually have him at number 12 right now, but he's 19 years old playing for Borussia Dortmund. So these guys are going to have massive World Cup stages that they can step up and play on. But when we think about guys in soccer, for instance, we need to think younger than other sports. These guys are 18, 19 years old, having massive market caps on a sports card investment portfolio standard. And when we think about that, when it plays out in the rest of their careers, we might as well get in now and hold for the long term. So at this point, I've talked about enough of our top 10. I'm going to give you our current top 10 in terms of our soccer card rankings. We have Kylian Mbappe, number 1. At right now, we do have Caden Clark at number 2 because we believe that he's going to be a very big piece of the U.S. men's national team going forward. And at such a young age, he is a very viable piece right now. He's very young, and we could see him making the U.S. men's national team very soon, and we could see his card prices skyrocket in value. So he is our number 2 in terms of our smart long-term plays. We do have Pedri at number 3, Erling Holland at number 4, Cristiano Ronaldo at number 5, Lionel Messi at number 6, Vinicius Jr. at number 7. I haven't even mentioned him, but he's the striker at the biggest club in the world in Real Madrid and plays for the Brazilian national team. Massive potential there. We have another United States men's national team player in Yunus Musah, who is at Valencia, another young star for the United States men's national team. We've got Neymar Jr. Playing alongside Mbappe at PSG, but also playing for the Brazilian national team as the star. Really, he's the guy in the Brazilian national team office, and he's the veteran now, which is crazy that Neymar has now gone through a whole market cycle in terms of a young prospect going into making his European debut and then also being a Brazilian star. And then at number 10, we have Doosan Velozovic, which is the Juventus striker in the Serbian national team as well. And then after that, we have a lot of guys that we're just high on. For instance, down in the list, we have guys like Jude Bellingham, which is a really up-and-coming player for the English national team, also playing for Dortmund right now. We have Jadon Sancho down there, another English player. We have Paxton Aronson and Brendan Aronson down there. And we don't want to leave this conversation without mentioning guys like Ansu Fati, which is technically long plays because they had some injury history, but also Mohamed Kudus as well. So that we are looking at, when you narrow it to a top 10 in terms of a sport that is so broad and has stars all over the world, you almost need a top 10 per region. And so it's really, really difficult to kind of put all these guys in a list and make it comprehensive without making somebody angry. When I think about, when I think about guys like Son or Harry Kane or Mason Mount, those guys are way down on our list. I mean, Phil Foden, for instance, we're at the time of this recording, Manchester City versus Real Madrid Champions League match was yesterday. And that was one of the best matches I've ever seen on a pitch. This was just, it was world class. It was a movie in the making. You had stars all over the field. You had players that were GOATs. You had players that were young stars. You have players that are going to be great national team players. And Phil Foden is in that match. And he's still maybe outside of my top 25 in terms of investable players right now. And so there's just so much money to be made in the soccer industry. That's what we're going to try to be doing over bi-weekly episodes, hopefully on nooffseason.com. So what I want to part you with here is GOATs that I love: Maradona, Ronaldo, and Messi. Next level guys that I love in terms of stars: Mbappe, Pedri, and Haaland. And then with Flyers, I'm going to put U.S. men's national team players in the Flyers, and here's why. I think the United States men's national team is set up for an increasing amount of payability in terms of liquidity in the next couple of months. One, because take the branding off of the United States men's national team and you just look at what they have. They are a top 15 team in the world. I would argue top 10 team in the world. They are the youngest team at the World Cup in terms of their stars. They do not have players that are starting older than 29 years old on average. Their average age is one of the youngest in the league. And I think we're seeing players that are at big clubs. I mean, we're talking about Chelsea. We're talking about Borussia Dortmund. We're talking about Barcelona. We're talking about guys that are at clubs that are all over the world, top at their divisions. And you've got players on those teams that are starting for United States men's national team. Not to mention at the World Cup, the U.S. Market spends the most money per ticket price on seats. So when you look at past World Cups and who is buying the most tickets, those are people coming from the United States going to watch the World Cup. What's funny is soccer has not been popular in the United States until just recently. And I would say it's maybe not even popular yet, but this is a country that and has the ability to spend money. And when you're looking at investors, they're going to want to get into the next asset class that is hot. And therefore, they're going to be buying the club that is their own. So the combination of the demographic of people investing in the United States, the combination of the team being young, the team having catalytic stars, the team having players at the best clubs all over Europe, and the team having the ability to potentially win the World Cup, not this World Cup, but I think the 2026 World Cup is going to be the World Cup where the United States men's national team could potentially win its first World Cup title. And at that point, I'm going to be having my portfolio well diversified and with men's national team players, not to mention, and I will make a separate episode about this, there is investable opportunities in the women's national team as well. So what I'm investing in currently is GOATs, stars, and then my Flyers are all filled with United States men's national team with guys like Caden Clark, with guys like Yunus Musah, with guys like Ricardo Pepi, even though I'm not super high on Pepi, and I'll defend that in a different episode as well. But then when you're thinking about guys such as Brendan Aronson, even Pulisic is, I think, undervalued right now. So definitely those are going to fill my Flyers, and I'm definitely a homer in that way. And I will defend that till the end, because I think there's enough strategic element and enough boxes checked outside of my passion just to like the United States men's national team for it to fill your portfolio, even if you are not a United States citizen. So if you are outside of the country, I would still say that the United States men's national team players are guys that are worth investing in because of the liquidity option, and you're going to have massive amounts of buyers looking for those players at the World Cup. It reminds me of about 8 to 10 years ago, the Belgian team had players that were super young, super catalytic, and all over the best clubs in Europe. And we're seeing those kind of players phase out at this point in Belgium because of the nation size. But I would say that the United States men's national team is going to go on a run over the next 10 to 15 years, because there are so many studs under the age of 23 years old, and you have guys coming after them. This is only going to be a more and more precedent country launching stars into the highest level. So thank you for listening to Sports Card Strategy Show. I hope you were able to get a little piece of what we will dive into over the coming episodes. I want to be able to give you the best and most comprehensive data when it comes to how you should fill your investment reports. I hope this is an evergreen episode. I hope we can look at the World Cup and look back at this even in 2026 and say that was an episode that we were before our time. So please get into soccer now while you still have the chance at a viable opportunity. This has been Kendall McKee with the Soccer Card Strategy Show at nooffseason.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
All right, as you can see, power-packed as always, my man, the catalytic Kendall McKee. Thank you so much for a great episode of the Soccer Card Strategy Show. Kendall and I host the Sports Card Strategy Show, and you can subscribe to the Sports Card Strategy Show if you haven't already by going to sportscardstrategy.com. There you can find links to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to join our Facebook group. We would love to see you there. Go to sportscardstrategy.com. Click on the link to join our Facebook group so we can connect. We want to hear your feedback, and we want you to be part of the conversation on the Sports Card Strategy Show, nooffseason.com, Sports Card Content Network. Thanks again for listening and watching the Soccer Card Strategy Show on the nooffseason.com Content Network. I'm Paul Hickey. Have a great day.